What's up, y'all? It is Tasha. It is Wednesday night, so we are back with another review of Married at First Sight. In this train wreck, it just keeps happening, y'all. It just keeps happening. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me formally introduce y'all to the video. Hey y'all, this is Tasha. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button below, like, comment, share the video with your friends and family if they watch this train wreck of a show as well, so we can just all get into it together, okay? So the episode just went off, and before I could even come with the review, I had to go take a little swig of wine because the way Alyssa is tearing my nerves up. We gonna all need, if we stay through this whole season and she stays through this whole season, we gonna all need to go to therapy, okay? Because I don't see how we gonna make it through and still be sane. All right, but let's get into the episode this week because it was another good episode in my opinion. A lot of things happened in one episode again instead of them kind of stretching things out. But honestly, I'm so sick of Alyssa and I'm ready for her to be off of my TV screen. But let's get into the details of the show. Okay, so we are, of course, season 14, episode 6. All the couples are waking up on day 5 of the honeymoon, and poor little Chris is still struggling. He says that Alyssa hasn't approached him at all off camera and wants him to act like a husband, but she's not doing anything to act like a wife. Of course she isn't. She tries to say, you know, she's trying to keep her head up. She's trying to stay in the game, and it's not easy, but she's still here, and that says a lot. And I'm like, yeah, a whole lot of nothing, or a whole lot of I want a free vacation in the sun with some people that I call my friends that I just met. Girl, whatever. So all the couples are going out to do different activities today. We see Mark and Lindsay waking up together. And I was a little bit confused because last episode, we know they ended on really bad terms when he wanted to reel things back a little bit. But now they looking like they've smashed for the 4th time. Yeah, the 4th time. I do watch the after party. I don't watch it the same night, y'all, because my brain cells just don't have the energy to do that. I watch it usually once the weekend comes. I will watch the after party. So if y'all want me to do a quick little review on that, drop down in the comments and let me know. But I do watch it, so we learned from there that Lindsay said that they had already had sex, I believe, 3 times that day before the argument. So that's why she kind of blew up so big, because they had just smashed right before the dinner that they had together. So there's that. But Mark tells us that an hour later, after they had the whole argument, that they talked about it. We see a little bit of footage of it, and they ended up squashing it. They have breakfast delivered to their room. Mark says he thinks they should pray before they eat, so he does a nice little prayer. And then after he prays, he says, well, are you religious? I'm like, fine time to ask now, Mark. But I'm like, you better get used to talking to the big man upstairs if you're going to stay married to Lindsay. You want to, if you don't already have a good connection with him, you want to go ahead and build that connection, because you're probably going to be calling on him quite a bit dealing with Miss Lindsay, okay? So they talk about kids, and they're pretty much all over the place. Lindsay just knows she don't want to have 3 kids for whatever reason. She says she wants her children to grow up religious because she did, but when they are old enough to make their own decisions, they can make their own decision about going to church or what kind of religion that they are a part of. Katina and Olajuwon, they head out to do some horseback riding, and she still got this hot and heavy wig on, child. And I'm like, at what, this man has to see your real hair at some point. So at what point are we just going to let the Cleo braids fly, or let the afro fly, or whatever you got under there? When are you going to let it loose, girl? Because I know it got to be hot and sweaty in Puerto Rico, still in this hot and heavy wig. But I digress. So Katina is afraid because she's not an animal person. She really wants to go slow, and then she wants to stop because she really don't like it. And I can feel her on this. I have ridden a horse one time in my life, and it was on a mountain, and I was terrified. And I said, Lord, if you get me off of this, you ain't got to worry about it no more. And I have not gotten on the back of a horse since then. Okay, so I can feel her in this moment. But Olajuwon gets annoyed at her, and is not really exercising a lot of patience with her. And I'm like, why you acting like you some professional jockey out here? Because you said neither one of y'all have done this. Y'all both city people, so y'all are not out here riding horses on a regular basis. Cut it out, Isaac. And then he starts to go fast, which makes her horse go fast. And then she starts to freak out a little bit. And he starts to laugh as if it's funny. And I'm like, sir, this isn't funny. These little games that you play to like try to test her or ignore her or whatever it is you're doing, it's not funny. And I need you to grow up, because this ain't the way, Sway. This ain't the way. After they get off, he says, you know, when she gets uncomfortable, he's learned that when she gets uncomfortable, she wants to stop. But if he keeps pushing her, she gets it done. And I'm like, no, that's getting on her nerves. Don't do that. Stop being annoying. She says she wants him to learn when to push and when not to push. And he says he will never put her through something that she couldn't go through. And I'm like, how about you actually just listen to her and stop thinking that you know what's best for her, when I'm sure she know what's best for herself, Olajuwon? Like, just stop being annoying, dude. She says in that moment, she wanted to punch him in the face. And I was like, same, girl, same. So next, Noy and Steve go on a little nature walk. We know being outdoors is Steve's element right here. They get in the water that was near the little trail they was walking. And he says it's kind of a big disappointment that, she was a little nervous and didn't want to get in. I'm like, Steve, all of us don't be taking 4 or 5 months off of work to live in our car and travel down, the shoreline or the state lines or whatever you did on your little vacation that you went on. We don't all do that, and we don't all like to be outside, all including me. But I was just so annoyed. I was like, what is up with these men acting like their wife should just be comfortable with whatever it is that they want to do, as if we are all going to have the same likes and activities and hobbies and things. Get over yourself. Anyway, he eventually uses this as an opportunity to teach her how to float in this cold, gross looking water that they're in. And then a fish ends up biting him on his toe. And they get out the water, and I'm like, can y'all just go to the pool, please? But they end up, being cute, hugging, kissing, having a good time in the rainforest. Y'all know how Steve and Noy do. So over to Alyssa and Chris. They are meeting up to play tennis, and Pastor Cal comes on in a little confessional and say that they've been monitoring their progress, and they have seen that Alyssa has been avoiding the activity, so they gave them an easy activity. So I said, so because she didn't want to do water activities, you gave them a land activity when she just don't want to do activities with him? Make it make sense as to why this activity is supposed to be better or different than the other activities? Maybe I'm missing something here. I don't know. Anyway, she comes to the tennis court in flip-flops, so we know she is not here to actively participate. She's only here to cut her check, because her check at this point was probably in jeopardy because she ain't doing her job. But poor Chris is still hopeful, because he's like, at least she showed up, so yay for that, A for effort. She starts to actually play with him, and Chris thinks, we're very compatible on paper, and she's genuinely fun. And I'm like, where and when did you find that out? But I digress. When he asks if she wants to sit and talk, she says sure, and immediately the look of disgust and upset comes across her face, that she knows now she's going to have to sit down, be close to him, and actually talk to him. And her mood almost immediately changes, like turning on and off a light switch. I swear, I just immediately looked at her and was like, can you even attempt to hide that you are just disgusted, Alyssa? Can you attempt to do that, since you're such a good person? Can you attempt to do that? Anyway, she says she's trying to be optimistic, and she has, put in so much hard work to be ready for this, and she will just continue to try, all while her face is like stone cold, and she's saying this as if we see that there's any potential that she will change. Girl, no. So he asks her about what happens after the honeymoon, because they should be moving into an apartment together, and she says she doesn't feel comfortable moving in. She asks, I'm going to emphasize, she asks him how he felt about that, and he says he gets it. He wants her to do what she feels comfortable in, and then he starts to say when it came to the process, it included, and he couldn't even get the statement out, and she's like, I don't like where this conversation is going, because it's basically insinuating that you were committed and I wasn't. She says, everyone else is going to be in the apartment. They're going to be hanging out together and filming. And I just feel robbed of this whole experience that we were supposed to have. She then says she doesn't feel it's fair to not live in the apartment. And I'm like, But girl, you were the one that just made a decision saying that you did not feel comfortable, so you wasn't moving in the apartment. If you gonna lie and do this stuff, I'm just gonna need you to get it together. Whatever you gonna say or complain about, make it consistent and make it make sense. At this point, this is all we are asking, because it's not making sense. You can't say you don't feel comfortable moving into the apartment and then say you feel robbed that you aren't able to move into the apartment. Nobody's stopping you from moving in the apartment but you, Alyssa. You. So Chris says Chris is willing to do anything to move into the apartment. He says, whether we're in love, whether we're just friends, I don't care. And she says they both want to experience the shared apartment. And it's like Chris just made a decision that he would move in and she wouldn't. And I'm like, again, no, you made a decision that you would not move in because you don't feel comfortable. Remember, you just said that 3 seconds ago, girl. And I'm just like, at this point, it's looking like you just want a place to live for the next 2 months. So if that's what it is, just say that, Alyssa. And Chris is like, you can move in. And she says, that's not what I'm saying, Chris. It sounds like, we're in a tough spot and we just need to make a decision. And I'm like, yeah, it does. Piss or get off the pot. Figure it out, Alyssa. And then she, of course, walks away because she doesn't want to handle the conversation. The producers run after her. And she says she wants to move in because, the other girls are going to be there. They're going to be hanging out. And I won't be able to invite them over to my place to hang out, and it's just not fair. And I'm like, do you know how dumb you sound? You are not here to make new girlfriends and to hang out with the other wives. They will be hanging out with their husbands like you should be doing, ma'am. She says this just isn't fair because they aren't compatible. And again, you have not tried anything to make this thing work. And this man has done nothing to you. Chris is now talking to the producers and he's like just pointing at things and looking around. And she starts complaining about this man hand gestures and says it is aggressive. Just look at him and his hand gestures. It's just so aggressive. And the producer even has to chuckle and say, it's just hand gestures. Alyssa, go home. Go home. Okay? Chris then leaves the tennis court and she sits there and continues to cry her white woman victim tears as she usually does. Next, we see Lindsay and Mark, and she shares that Mark's landlord/bonus mom has been blowing up his phone multiple times a day since they've been on the honeymoon. Lindsay is now distracted and kind of says that Mark is distracted, and they play this reel of his phone always ringing and him always having to step out and answer it, but they never tell us why she keeps calling him. Then we see Katina and Olajuwon, Jasmina and Michael meet up for drinks and hanging out at the beach. Michael asks if they expected to connect this fast, and Katina's like, no. She then asks Michael and Jasmina if they say why they were matched, and they said yes. We share the same beliefs, kind of our personalities, what we want out of life, so we truly get why we were matched. Michael then shares that they are both very opinionated, and Katina asks if that can cause some issues, and Jasmina is like, I don't know, because I can sometimes see both sides basically more often than Michael can, and I'm like, where at, Jasmina? Because I don't see where you really want to compromise either. Whenever he brings up something, you bring up your point and you see his is wrong, he see yours is wrong. Neither one of y'all really seeing both sides. So yeah, I don't know about that, Jasmina. But Michael kind of ends up saying the same thing. He was like, no, I kind of feel like, we both act the same in that aspect, and I can agree with that. Olajuwon then says he likes to push his wife, and he really knew she was agitated during the horse ride, and he was like, I kind of like that. And I'm like, so Isaac, you like a little toxicity in your woman, don't you? I feel like that's what you want, and you try to do what brings out that attitude and that side from her, which again is childish, and it is not good. It is not first grade, I hit you, and I hit you because I like you. We are over 30 years old. Act as such, okay? Lindsay and Mark then head to the spa for a little couples massage, and Mark finally shares that it was a bed bug situation in his apartment building. So we guess that's why the landlord slash bonus mom was calling him. And I'm like, well, what is she expecting him to do from Puerto Rico exactly that she has to call him so many times in a day? Is he the exterminator? I mean, what is happening? There's nothing he can do about it at this moment. They finish their massage, and then Lindsay tells us, of course, that the landlord has now changed his lease while they were on the honeymoon, that there are now no cats allowed. And she knows that, of course, I believe Mark has, 2 or 3 cats. And I'm like, what is happening here? What is it that we don't know? I'm like, this is really weird that this landlord friend, bonus mom, whoever this lady is, would do this when she was at the wedding. She seems to, of course, really have a tight relationship with Mark. And I'm like, did she want Mark for herself? And now that he's married, she trying to do what she can for that not to work out? Things that make you go, child, I'm just saying. So then Lindsay says, I kind of start acting like Mama Bear, and I really don't like it. So you don't have to go back there. Whenever we get back home, you can move in with me. And Mark is starting to look a little nervous. And I'm like, well, you knew y'all was going to move in. But I think because Lindsay took it the extra step of, no, we going to get your stuff. You can move some of the stuff in the shared apartment. You can move some of the stuff in my apartment. But don't worry, you do not have to go back, okay? So she really jumps into being this man's mama and is like, we're going to get back, and you're going to take Monday off of work. You're going to go to your place, get your cats, get what you need, put those things in my apartment, put them in shared apartment, and you ain't got to go back because we ain't got to worry about her no more. And I'm like, well, okay then, Lindsay. But I'm also thinking, if there are bed bugs in the apartment, I'm not sure if it's just his apartment, the apartment complex, a duplex, whatever it is, but if there's bed bugs involved, you ain't bringing nothing from that apartment over to my apartment or the shared apartment. Even them cats, they gonna have to be exterminated before they come over to my. You ain't bringing no bed bugs in my house. No, sir. Not happening. So it is now nighttime, and Chris is headed back to the room alone. He calls his sister and tells her what has been happening. And I'm like, if this is my brother, Alyssa wouldn't be able to get to the airport before I would be waiting for her like I'm an Uber, and I will have all the smoke for her. Do you hear me? Because what you're not about to do is treat my brother like this. His sister was, she being the bigger person because she was a bit calmer than I would be in the situation, but I would not be here for it. Do you hear me? So I'm going to try to follow along what happened because a lot was going on as they were flipping back and forth from the scenes, y'all. Anyways, as he's upstairs talking to her, downstairs, Alyssa is still complaining to the producers and says she is sick of being the good person. She is stuck in a terrible situation. She has been taking the high road, and she does not want to be portrayed as the bad person. Again, stop doing the behavior and you would stop portraying yourself as such. He says he then asks the crew if they want to ask her if she wants to talk to him off camera. She really starts to have a tantrum and says, no, I do not want to talk to him. I hate him. He's an asshole. He's disrespectful and rude. He is doing me dirty, and it is disgusting that a man is treating a woman this way. And I'm like, what is happening here? Well, this man did not do anything. I wish I could live in her head to figure out what it is that she has imagined this man has done to her and why he's treating her so disrespectfully. Girl. And then she says he just wants to come off as a good guy. He's just a fucking car salesman that sells houses. And I'm like, so a realtor? He's a realtor, girl. He sells houses. And I'm pretty sure he makes really good money doing such. But okay. Okay, girl. And then she starts to cry, and she seriously sounds like a 5-year-old in this moment, complaining that it's not fair. He gets to move into an apartment. He gets to have all the fun with the other couples. His sister then tells him, that, as they were talking to her mom, they were telling Alyssa's mom that Chris is very calm, and her mom was like, that's exactly what she needs, because she can fly off the handle and really start crying for no apparent reason. Hence where we are now. And I'm like, no, she doesn't need a husband for that. She needs medication or something to help stabilize her. That's what we need. Chris says he got the same thing from her parents and her bridesmaids. He says she says the only time she's happy is when she's alone or with the other girls. And then still talks about how her mom is mad at her and how she is still such a good person. All right. Then one of the producers really have to remind her that, girl, this show is called Married at First Sight, not Single at First Sight. And when he said that, because I could hear that he was fed up in his voice, y'all, I cackled so loud, okay? Because I'm like, we not here for you to have a good time by yourself or the other couples or the other girls. You are here to be with your husband and to potentially make this marriage work for the long haul. That's why we are here. Hence the name of the show, Married at First Sight. All right, his sister feels if she isn't willing to meet him halfway, then she thinks he should just cut his losses. And he thinks he's about at that point. She's still downstairs on this rant and says she doesn't care about what other people feels, about how she feels. She isn't being dramatic. She is handling this better than anyone else would. And the producer's kind of like, well, kind of what are we doing? We just have to figure this out. And she's like, well, I guess we are just going to have to figure this out, huh? And the producer's like, yeah, and it's almost move-in day. So, yeah, we need to figure out what it is that we're doing. And again, at this point, I think she shouldn't even have the option of participating. It just really needs to be like, your behavior has been completely ugly since day one. This man does not deserve this. We have the footage that he has done absolutely nothing to you to be treated this way. And because of your behavior, you can exit stage left. That's what I really want the show to do. Stop leaving it up to her that if she's going to continue and learn how to behave. Because at this point, she's shown us that she don't know how to behave. So now we are on day 6 of marriage. Steve and Noe are about to head out to the beach. Mark and Lindsay are about to meet up with Chris. So y'all know we about to get more tea. Alyssa's on the beach alone, and we see that she's actually waiting for Katina and Jasmina, who meets up with her. So Mark and Lindsay meet up with Chris, and he says he's doing okay. It's not where he thought they would be. While Alyssa's on this other side, saying that it's been hard because she doesn't have what the other couples have. And she's kind of just laughing it off. Like, I'm still happy for everybody else. Just don't have what they have. And I'm just like, girl, go ahead and tell them the truth of how much of a bitch you've been to Chris all this time. Chris is now telling the story. Chris is now telling the story from the wedding day to current. And it's exactly what we saw on TV. So we are all confused as to why she continues to act so ugly. Alyssa then says, neither Chris or I thought this would be the situation. And she really feels like he is blaming her, but she isn't blaming him. And it's because it is your fault, Alyssa. Y'all are in this situation because of you, ma'am. Chris says she hasn't said if she's attracted to him or not, so he just doesn't know. And I'm like, Chris, she just has not blatantly said it, but She then talks again about the things his friends and family said. And Katina tells her that she really needs to talk to him, not take what his friends and family has said as face value, because she believes that's exactly what she's did, but you need to actually talk to him. She does not want to do that because she does not like him. She then says no matter what, she's trying her best to be respectful. And honestly, neither Katina and Jasmina look like they are believing the bullshit that's coming out of her mouth at this moment. And then when they flash back over to Mark and Lindsay meeting with Chris, Lindsay actually says, you are probably exactly what she needs. And in 10 years, she'll actually regret that she treated you this way and she didn't actually, go through with this. And while I don't care for Lindsay, she's 100% correct. I'm sure Chris probably would have been a great balance for her if she would have been able to stop being just so materialistic or just really looking at him and looking at the physical instead of really looking inside to what this man can offer to her. And I feel like he would be a great husband, but she honestly don't deserve it. So there's that. Mark feels bad that she isn't even giving Chris a chance, and Katina is asking her if maybe Chris is confused that she threw in the towel so early because she said, she then says they've had numerous conversations. And I'm like, girl, no, y'all haven't, because all you keep doing is walking away. So y'all have not had numerous conversations, so cut it out. And then Katina is just straight up says, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I just think you aren't attracted to him. And she goes back and says she doesn't think she got anything she wanted for the experts. She wished the experts would have just told her they didn't find her a match. And I'm like, but they did find you a match. You are just too self-absorbed to realize that they have found you a good man. But Katina then tells her to just be straight up. Don't beat around the bush. Just tell him exactly what it is. And then Jasmina says she really feels bad for Chris. And Mark says, you know, what we've all been thinking, that Chris really just needs to let it go. All right. So Mark and Lindsay then go out exploring, and they go flying kites, and it looks so beautiful. Again, vacation me, please. Okay. I'm so ready to go on a vacation. Jasmine and Michael now take turns, and they're at the rainforest, and they sit and talk by the water. Jasmine says that the vibe is a little bit off and they need to work on communication, but she's still trying to not let it affect the honeymoon. Michael then tells a story about a little boy, like him being a little boy on the bus and a bully messing with him and beating him up. And I guess he did that to maybe garner some sympathy from Jasmine. I don't really know, because I didn't see the story come full circle to understand what the point was. They then get in this cold, dirty water once again, as Noe and Steve did. They say to get out of their comfort zone, and says, you know, this is the first time. He says this is the first time he's seen her smile since the wedding. And she says she's still open. She's still willing to try. But I still feel like Jasmina has some kind of chip on her shoulder. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it is just her demeanor in the way she is, or she truly is still just hanging on to what his sisters have said and the confrontation, the little couple arguments that they've had, that she just can't let it go. But she's just so hard to read. I can't tell if she's having a good time, if she really likes the man. I just don't know what's going on with her. So all the couples then get together for the final dinner. And Lindsay, of all people, says she's nervous because, you know, all these personalities coming together. And I'm like, yours is the biggest of them all, so stop it. And of course, all the couples come hand in hand except Alyssa and Chris. Mark then asks if they're all excited to get back to the real world. And Jasmina says she's ready to get back to teaching her little toddlers. And they use that as a segue to kind of talk about how many kids they each want to have. And it seems to be between 2 or 3 kids for most of them. Kristen says, you know, it's just been like the past few years that he decided that he wants to get married and have children, because before he just really didn't want that. But then when the rest of his life fell into place, you know, career-wise, he started working on his mental health. He got more confidence in himself. Then he realized that he actually does want to get married and have kids. Mark asks if any couples have had any bumps in their marriage. And I'm looking at Mark like, here come these producers with these feeding these questions to y'all, because you know these people that had issues in their marriage. Cut it out. Michael says he's learning about communication and how to convey messages to his wife. Elijah learned that it's not an I and it's a we, and he just really can't push his wife in all aspects, and he needs to actually hear what she is saying. So I'm like, glad you've noted that. We'll see how this actually plays out in real life. Noe said that Steve really expresses himself different than her, and Steve says the way he interacts shows how he feels, even if he doesn't necessarily give her the words of affirmation that she's looking for. He's hoping that, you know, just the way he treats her and the things that he actually does for her shows her that he does care for her and likes her. Chris says that he hasn't, you know, had support like he's had from Lindsay, and it's very refreshing. And not Chris, I'm sorry. Mark said he hasn't had support like he's had from Lindsay in other relationships, and that's very refreshing. And then they ask Alyssa and Chris, and she lies and says, oh, we're good. We're just taking things day by day. No, y'all not. Chris looks like he's pretty much ready to explode and tell everything at this moment, and she is just trying to save face. Noe asks what their plans are about moving in, and Alyssa says they haven't talked about it, It says that, her thought is that, he'll move in for the first half and then I'll move in for the second half. And I'm like, first of all, what are you talking about? Y'all haven't talked about it. Y'all did talk about it and you said you felt uncomfortable and you did not want to move in. So quit lying to these people. Second of all, what sense does it make for him to move in the first half and you to move in the second half? The point of the shared apartment is so y'all can share the apartment. If y'all ain't going to be there together, y'all don't need no apartment. Stop wasting lifetime money, okay? Chris says, well, this was the first time I'm hearing of this plan, and I'm really not on board with this because either I'm all in or I'm all out. I didn't come here for these other people. I love these couples and things, but I didn't come here for them. I came here to find the person that I want to spend the rest of my life with. And really, in this moment, I wish Chris would have gotten up from that table and said, and I'm all out. You can sit here by yourself. I'm leaving. And I wish everybody else from that table would have gotten up and left her sitting at that table crying by herself, because that's what she deserved in this moment. I'm sorry, y'all. That's what she deserves. So all the other couples are really looking like WTF, like this is awkward. What is going on? Chris says, like, I'm not looking to split time with the other couples. Like, this ain't no divorced parents sharing custody. This isn't a draft. Like, what are we doing? And I can just laugh because I'm like, all of this doesn't make sense. Like, it makes sense to none of us. It only makes sense to Alyssa. Because the look on everybody's face is like, did we just hear what we thought we heard? Okay, girl. He says his drive is to find the person he's to spend the rest of his life with. And if that is with someone who is moving slow, that is fine because he has the rest of his life. But he can't continue to put himself out there and really get zero back. And Lindsay says, I like that. And Alyssa gives her the death stare. If that stare could have shot out like lightning bolts or bullets, Lindsay would be dead right now. She once again has to tell us that Chris is trying to make her look bad. And I'm like, no, he isn't, baby. You've done that all by yourself. But she says that he's trying to make her look bad because she thinks he isn't compromising and is disappointed because he's actively trying to make her look bad. And she's a really, really good person, y'all. Okay? Keep that in mind. She's a really, really good person. He says what he does is based on what she does. So if she is all out, he is all out. But she is even 1% in, then he is all in. And I'm like, Chris, stop looking desperate. You know this girl is not all in. And even being 1% in is not enough for you to be 100% in. Like, stop letting her have this much control over what your next move is. Stop it. She then says it's been difficult for the both of them. And she has put in work as the rest of the couples. And she wants everyone to remember that it's not her fault that this has happened. Lindsay then makes a face and she says, Lindsay, please don't do that. And I'm like, in this moment, Lindsay is giving me everything because we can all see through this madness, Alyssa. You think you putting on a show, but everybody knows what's really happening here. Okay? She says it hurts that things are going this way. And Lindsay basically says that we are all thinking that everything out her mouth is BS at this point. She starts to cry yet again. And Chris has to ask again if she is all in. And we all know she is all out. She says she thinks this isn't a conversation for everyone. And Chris said it never is. And he is annoyed. And he has every right to be because she is making it seem as if when they're alone, she'll actually have a conversation. And we've already seen plenty of times that she's going to do nothing but walk away. So cut it out, Alyssa. But she has the nerve to say that the fact that she is still here, I'm still sitting next to you, I am still here. And I'm like, you are only here for the free vacation and to talk to the other couples, well, the other girls on the trip. So stop acting like you are here to be all in for your marriage, okay? She keeps saying that she is trying when it feels that they are both robbed of this situation. And I'm like, I don't think both of y'all feel that way. You are trying to say that to act as if y'all are in the same boat. Chris does not feel he has been robbed as you feel. So put that on yourself and not make that a we statement, okay? He says, she doesn't have an answer for him. So for now, that leaves him with he'll continue to try. And I'm like, no, you should have called her bluff in the moment. She said she didn't want to talk about it in front of the other couples. You should have said, all right, let's step away right now and have this conversation. And you should have called her bluff, because she still would have, again, not given you a response, just like she did in the next scene. So Mark and Lindsay then talk about the dinner. And he says he's proud of her for not saying anything when Alyssa mentioned her name. So good job, Lindsay, on keeping your mouth closed. Katina and Olajuwon then talk about the dinner. And he says how powerful it was that Chris really just poured it out all on the table for all of them to hear and see. And he was really agitated that she just really couldn't see that he was doing a lot and just putting it all out there. And Alyssa was giving him nothing back for it. So at this point, everybody can see through Alyssa. So back to Chris and Alyssa, they're talking, and he brings up her talking about the shared apartment, and he asks, why she thought that her solution was best. She says she wants to be a part of the experience and sharing that with the group. And again, this ain't no sleepaway summer camp, girl. This is a marriage, okay? Chris asks her about her thoughts coming into the marriage prior to meeting him, and he asks if she had accounted for adjusting for someone who is not perfect. She said, yes, she didn't think she would get 100%, but they just have so many differences. And Chris asks, well, what are those differences? And she, of course, can't list not even one. Not even one she could give us. And I'm like, that should be your answer, Chris. There is none. She's making it up as she goes. She says mentally she can't have this conversation with him, but she will have it with him. And Chris is like, well, okay, when? And she's like, well, we go home tomorrow, so I guess maybe sometime next week. Yeah, right. And I'm like, she wants to give herself more time to, again, gather her lies so that she can really figure out what she's going to say to really end this completely. He asks, when did she tap out? And she says she didn't, because she's still here. She had the opportunity to leave yesterday and she didn't. She says she understands he's frustrated, and again, keeps saying they're in the same situation. And again, Alyssa, y'all are not in the same situation. He does not feel the same way you feel. Stop doing it to try to make yourself feel better. Chris then keeps asking her for her to tell him where she stands, and she can't tell him. And she doesn't like it when he just continues to poke. And now she doesn't like how he's speaking to her and portraying the conversation. And that is her exit strategy to, again, leave the room and leave another conversation. Chris finally says he feels confident that that she has no interest in this. And she basically has created a false dichotomy, and she doesn't know, acting like she doesn't know what she was getting herself into. All facts. The producer asked Chris if he can give her more time, and he says he still feels she isn't here for the right reason. And for the 100th time, she has to tell us she's a good person and she's here for the right reasons. She says that he is trying to assassinate her character because he keeps saying she isn't here for the right reason. And Chris says he really wished she would just be honest and accept whatever consequences those are that will come her way from her being honest. And at this point, I'm like, that is absolutely correct. And the worst that can happen is you get a divorce. Like now, because of your behavior, you're going to get dragged through these internet streets. But if you didn't do all this, really the worst thing that would have happened was you getting a divorce at the end. But now you've made yourself look like an ass to all of America and whatever other countries this show plays in. That's all you've done. Anyway, Alyssa, I want you to go back to Boston in your own apartment and cry there and stay off of my TV. And at this point, I'm like, why the producers aren't, again, sending a 911 text to the experts, okay? Anyway, so next day, the couples are waking up, getting ready to head back home. Noi says she is happy that they are one of the couples that survived the honeymoon. I'm like, shade, Noi, shade. Olajuwon asks if Katina is nervous about going back home, and she feels confident they'll continue to get along for the most part. And he is 98% sure everything will go smooth, but doesn't want things to, change. Jasmine and Michael really eat breakfast. They just talk about his alarm going off at 4 a.m. for work, and she really don't look that excited about it, and I don't blame her. They all start to head out and leave, and Alyssa has to tell us that if she could describe her marriage in one word, it would be a mess. Chris says if he can tell her one thing, it would be that he thinks the experts gave him what he was looking for, although she doesn't feel the same. And I'm like, Chris, I want you to stop being so desperate for this girl to like you. I want you to stop it. You said you worked on your self-esteem. I need to see it, because right now you just acting like whatever, you will take whatever she gives you. And until she says, I do not like you and I don't want to be with you, you're going to continue to try. Anyway, she says she isn't sure where they go from here because it's not her fault. And for the final time of the episode, guys, she has to tell us she is a good person. And that was how the episode went off. Next week, it looks like every couple is going to get into it. Finally, an expert is in the room, and Pastor Cal looks to be meeting with Alyssa and Chris. And he asks if this is going to kind of be the end, and they're asking for a divorce. And I really pray that Chris says yes. And if Chris doesn't say yes, I want Alyssa to finally grow some balls, and I need her to be honest and say yes and get all of us out of the misery of watching her on our TV treating this man like trash for no apparent reason. Again, another very draining episode for all of us in our mental health, but leave your comments below and let me know what you thought about this god-awful episode, okay? I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll meet you down in the comments below, and we'll be back to chat about it next week. Peace.